Because if you've ever caught yourself saying, I'll just start fresh on Monday, or next month I'll really get serious, or I just need to wait until life calms down, I promise you, you're not alone. And I get why we do this. The idea of a clean slate, a fresh start, feels good, right? It gives us a sense of control, a way to mentally wipe the slate clean and say, this time it'll be different. But here's the problem. That feeling, that rush of excitement you get from planning a fresh start, it's an illusion. It's not actual progress. It's just thinking about progress. And in a lot of ways, it's a trap because the more we chase the feeling of a fresh start, the less we actually develop the skills to sustain long-term change. Humans love beginnings. It's wired into us. There's a reason we set New Year's resolutions, a reason we love the idea of a diet starting Monday, a reason we feel like we need to wait for a new month, a new season, a new something before we can fully commit. Psychologists even have a term for this. It's called the fresh start effect. It's the idea that tying a goal to a new beginning, a new week, a new year, even something like a birthday, makes us feel more motivated. That's not really motivation. That's inspiration. And there's a huge difference, right? Of course, the fitness industry loves to get this completely wrong. But inspiration comes and goes. Motivation, again, against what every influencer will tell you on the internet because they don't actually study motivation at all. On the other hand, motivation is constant, but only when it's supported correctly. So according to self-determination theory, motivation isn't about willpower or inspiration. It's about three key needs: autonomy, feeling in control of your choices; competence, feeling capable of making progress; and relatedness, feeling connected to others on the same path. This is how we internalize motivation and turn it into what people call discipline, which is really just motivation. So the problem with the Monday mindset is that it undermines all three of these needs, right? It takes away your autonomy because instead of deciding right now to take action, we push responsibility into the future. It crushes competence because every time we start over, we reinforce the idea that we can't sustain progress. And it disconnects us from real support because we're stuck in our own heads, waiting for the perfect time to begin. This is why people feel stuck. It's not because they lack motivation. It's because they haven't built a system that keeps their motivation working for them, keeps internalizing it. Welcome to Food on the Mind, Awaken Genius, where we break free from food obsession, unlock our potential, and build a life worth living. I'm Jeb Stuart Johnston, and here we dig into the psychology, philosophy, and strategy behind lasting change. Because transformation isn't just about what's on your plate, it's what's on your mind. Today, we're going to be digging into the art of starting over. If you're here, I appreciate you. If you find this episode valuable, do me a favor, hit subscribe, leave a review, and if you're watching on YouTube, drop a like and a comment. It helps more than you know. Now, let's dive in. So, let me ask you something. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start fresh on Monday, or next month will be different? Or maybe once things calm down, I'll really get serious about this. It's almost funny how predictable it is. Like Monday rolls around, we feel motivated, we swear this time will be different. And for a little while, maybe it is. Then life happens. We eat something we didn't plan to, we skip a workout, we hit a stressful day at work, and suddenly we're stress eating half a bag of chips in the kitchen, telling ourselves, screw it, I'll just start fresh next week. Sound familiar? Well, here's the thing. This pattern, the waiting, the stopping and starting, the fresh start that never seems to last, it's not about food. It's not about discipline. It's not about willpower. It's about all or nothing thinking. The idea that you're either on or off, good or bad, winning or failing. And that mindset, it's one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck. Today, we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about why the idea of a fresh start is a comforting illusion, how perfectionism is just self-sabotage dressed up as motivation, and most importantly, how to finally break free from this cycle so you never have to start over again. Because what if you didn't need a reset? What if you never had to wait for Monday or the first of the month or the next perfect moment? What if you could just keep going? This is where self-leadership comes in. This is where the work we do inside my Awakened Genius Blueprint makes all the difference. Because transformation isn't about getting it right every time. It's about knowing how to adjust when things don't go as planned. So, if you're ready to let go of the Monday mindset, if you're tired of the all or nothing thinking cycle, and you want to learn how to build real, sustainable progress, then stick around because this episode is for you. So let's talk about this idea of starting over. Because if you've ever caught yourself saying, I'll just start fresh on Monday, or next month I'll really get serious, or I just need to wait until life calms down, I promise you, you're not alone. And I get why we do this. The idea of a clean slate, a fresh start, it feels good, right? It gives us a sense of control. Way to mentally wipe the slate clean and say, this time it'll be different. But here's the problem. That feeling, that rush of excitement you get from planning a fresh start, it's an illusion. It's not actual progress. It's just thinking about progress. And in a lot of ways, it's a trap because the more we chase the feeling of a fresh start, the less we actually develop the skills to sustain long-term change. Humans love beginnings. It's wired into us. There's a reason we set New Year's resolutions, a reason we love the idea of a diet starting Monday, a reason we feel like we need to wait for a new month, a new season, a new something before we can fully commit. Psychologists even have a term for this. It's called the fresh start effect. It's the idea that tying a goal to a new beginning, a new week, a new year, even something like a birthday, makes us feel more motivated. That's not really motivation. That's inspiration. And there's a huge difference, right? Of course, the fitness industry loves to get this completely wrong, but inspiration comes and goes. Motivation, again, against what every influencer will tell you on the internet because they don't actually study motivation at all. On the other hand, motivation is constant, but only when it's supported correctly. So according to self-determination theory, motivation isn't about willpower or inspiration. It's about three key needs: autonomy, feeling in control of your choices; competence, feeling capable of making progress; and relatedness, feeling connected to others on the same path. This is how we internalize motivation and turn it into what people call discipline, which is really just motivation. So the problem with the Monday mindset is that it undermines all three of these needs, right? It takes away your autonomy because instead of deciding right now to take action, we push responsibility into the future. It crushes competence because every time we start over, we reinforce the idea that we can't sustain progress. And it disconnects us from real support because we're stuck in our own heads, waiting for the perfect time to begin. This is why people feel stuck. It's not because they lack motivation. It's because they haven't built a system that keeps their motivation working for them, keeps internalizing it. This all or nothing mindset shows up in so many areas of life. But let's talk about the big ones. Food and emotional eating. How many times have you had a weekend where you ate more than planned? Maybe you went out to dinner, maybe you had dessert, maybe you stress ate after a rough day. And instead of just moving forward, you told yourself, screw it. I already messed up. I might as well enjoy it and have a fresh start on Monday. And when Monday comes, what do? We go extreme. We overcorrect. We restrict. We cut out foods. We set rules. And that lasts for a little while until we inevitably break one of these rules. Then the cycle repeats. We overeat, we restrict, we feel deprived, we binge again, and then we repeat. And we think the problem is willpower, that we just need more discipline. But it's not discipline we need. It's a completely different approach. So what if you never started over again? What if instead of wiping the slate clean every time you mess up, you just, kept moving? Again, this is where self-leadership comes in. So in the Awaken Genius Blueprint, one of the core principles is shifting from reaction to response. So instead of reacting to a misstep by throwing in the towel, you learn to course correct in real time. You ate something off plan, no problem. Your next meal is an opportunity, not a failure. You skipped a workout, cool. Move your body tomorrow. You had a stressful day and used food to cope, it's okay. Learn from it, adjust, keep going. The goal isn't perfection, it's adaptability. And that's how you build real sustainable change, not by waiting for a perfect start, but by learning to navigate the messy middle. And that's what we're going to dig into in the next segment, how to actually break free from all or nothing thinking and start building consistency, even when things don't go as planned. So stick with me, this is where it gets good. So we've talked about why we love the idea of starting over, the fresh start effect, the Monday mindset, the way it tricks us into feeling like we're making progress, even when we're just spinning in the same cycle. But now, let's get into the real work, how to actually break free from this all or nothing thinking. Because if you take nothing else from this episode, take this. You don't need a fresh start, you need a better strategy. You don't need to be more disciplined. You need to understand why you're getting stuck in the first place and what to do differently. Because this pattern isn't about food. It's not about exercise. It's not about willpower. It's about how your brain processes failure. And once you understand that, you can completely shift the way you approach progress. So one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck in all or nothing thinking is because they believe success is a light switch. It's either on or off. I was doing great, then I fell off. I had a perfect streak, then I messed up. I was on track, but then I ruined it. This is binary thinking. The idea that you're either succeeding or failing, on plan or off plan, winning or losing. And this mindset is a huge problem because it makes failure feel permanent. Instead of seeing mistakes as part of the process, you see them as proof that you failed. It creates shame spirals. You feel bad about messing up, so shame kicks in. You disconnect. You avoid addressing it. You go deeper into the behavior you were trying to avoid. It makes small mistakes feel like big failures. One unplanned meal turns into a whole week of binging. One missed workout turns into quitting your entire fitness routine. One moment of struggle becomes a reason to start over instead of just adjusting. But here's what I want you to understand. Progress isn't a light switch. It's a dimmer switch. At any moment, you can turn the dial up or down, but you're never starting over. And once you make that shift, everything changes. Now let's talk about how we break out of this cycle. In dialectical behavior therapy, which is a big part of the strategic framework I use in my coaching, there's a concept called wise mind versus emotion mind. So emotion mind is reactive. It's impulsive. It's the voice that says, I already mess up, might as well go all in. Wise mind is balanced. It's the part of you that sees the bigger picture and can step back from the all or nothing thinking, right? Now, that wise mind is a balance between this emotional mind and this kind of logical mind, right? The logical is the opposite side. Now, neither logical side or emotional side are ideal on their own, and that's why we look for this balanced wise mind issue or process. So the problem is most people are stuck in emotion mind, especially when it comes to food and fitness and change. So here's what we do instead. We train ourselves to pause and pivot. So every time you feel that urge to start over, or that voice saying you blew it, just give up and reset next week, you stop. You ask yourself, what is one thing I can do right now that brings me back into alignment? What would my wise mind say in this moment? And instead of making a huge, dramatic change, you take one small step forward. This is the difference between reaction and response. This is where we bring it into real life. Because all of this is great in theory. How do you actually apply it when you're in the moment? So here's some tools that I like to use with my clients. Number one is the kind of micro reset, right? The 5-minute rule. You'll hear me talk about this in fives. Like I like to think about like 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days. But the initial part is this 5-minute rule. So instead of thinking I need a full reset, You train yourself to reset right now in the smallest possible way. If you overeat at lunch, next meal is the reset. Miss a workout, 5-minute walk is the reset. If you feel like you've fallen off, one action right now brings you back. It's a 5-minute rule. If you don't feel like working out, do 5 minutes. Feel like you've been off track with food, make one choice that supports your goal. Your brain needs evidence that you don't have to wait for a perfect start. And the more you practice these micro resets, the easier it becomes to break the Monday mindset. Another tool is the 2-day rule. This is kind of inspired by James Clear's Atomic Habits. Everyone read that, but framed through my lens. So what we have here is just this idea of how a lot of people fall into all or nothing thinking because they feel like they have to be perfect every single day. The truth is that consistency isn't about never missing. It's about maybe not missing twice. So this rule's simple. Just don't let yourself miss 2 days in a row. Miss a workout? No problem. Just move your body tomorrow. Have a tough day with food? No big deal. Just make the next day a win. This keeps your progress flexible without falling into extremes. And the tool number 3 is perspective shifting, becoming a person who adjusts, not starts over. So this is the biggest one because at the end of the day, this all or nothing thinking really becomes about identity and perspective. Like right now, you might see yourself as someone who tries really hard, but always falls off, or gets really motivated, then loses momentum, or needs a fresh start to stay on track. But what if that wasn't you anymore? What if your identity became, I am someone who makes adjustments. I don't start over. I keep going. I pivot. I course correct. I adapt. Because here's the truth. When you shift that identity, your actions will follow. The person who believes I always start over will keep looking for resets. But the person who believes I adjust and keep going will find a way forward every single time. Now, here's the caveat. Attaching identity to behavior is powerful, but it can also be a trap. If we start defining ourselves too rigidly, even in a positive way, it can create new pressure. So instead of seeing identity as fixed, it's better to see it as fluid. You're not someone who always stays on track. You're someone who learns from every experience. You're not a disciplined person. You're a person who responds with curiosity instead of judgment. Because the goal isn't to label yourself. It's to lead yourself. When we let go of rigid identity attachment, we give ourselves the freedom to evolve. And that is what makes long-term success possible. And that is where real change happens. So here's the takeaway. You don't need a new plan. You don't need to start over again. You don't need to wait for Monday or next month or some imaginary fresh start. You need a pivot mindset, a way to respond instead of react. And when you start using these tools, the micro resets, that 2-day rule, the identity and perspective shift, you train yourself to do something that changes everything. You stop looking for a fresh start. And you start becoming a person who just keeps moving forward. Now, in the next segment, we're going to go even deeper because breaking out of all or nothing thinking is step 1. Step 2, building a mindset of continuous growth so that no matter what happens, you always know how to move forward. So next, this is where we bring it all together. So to this point, we've dismantled the Monday mindset. Right? We've talked about why the fresh start illusion keeps us stuck. We've explored the dangers of all or nothing thinking and how shifting from reaction to response using tools like micro resets and the 2-day rule can help you stay on track without ever needing to start over again. But that's just the foundation. Because here's the thing. It's one thing to break free from old patterns. It's another thing entirely to build something sustainable in their place. And that's what we're going to cover now. How to move beyond short-term motivation and cultivate a mindset of continuous growth where no matter what happens, you always know how to move forward. Because transformation isn't a one-time event. It's not something you start on Monday and finish when you hit a goal. It's an ongoing practice. And when you start seeing it that way, when you stop chasing an endpoint and start embracing the process, everything shifts. So let's get into it. A lot of people think the key to long-term success is discipline. That if they could just be tougher on themselves, if they could just have more willpower, they'd be able to stay on track. But that approach usually backfires because when you build a system based on self-punishment, two things happen. You make mistakes feel bigger than they are, and instead of correcting course, you spiral into guilt and avoidance. You create resistance to the process itself. When every setback feels like failure, your brain starts associating change with suffering. And this is why so many people struggle with consistency. They're trying to force themselves into compliance instead of building a system of self-trust. So what's the alternative? Something I call the pivot versus punish framework. Every time you hit a setback, whether it's with food, exercise, work, or anything else, you have two choices. You can punish yourself. I messed up, so I have to make up for it. Or you can pivot. I see what happens. What's my next right step? So let's put this in context. You overeat at dinner. A punish mindset says, I need to restrict tomorrow to make up for this. A pivot mindset says, I'll just focus on making my next meal balanced. You miss a workout. Punish mindset says, I have to double up my workouts tomorrow. Pivot mindset says, I just need to get back to movement tomorrow. No need to overcompensate. You have a rough week. Punish mindset says, I failed. I need a total reset. Pivot mindset says, let me look at what worked, what didn't, and adjust my approach. Punishment keeps you stuck. Pivoting keeps you moving forward. And this is how real, lasting change happens. Not through perfection, but through self-correction. Because if you build the skill of self-correction, you'll never need another fresh start. Let's talk about the real reason people struggle with consistency. It's not because they lack motivation. It's not because they don't have enough discipline. It's because they don't fully trust themselves. They don't trust that they can handle setbacks without spiraling. They don't trust that they can make good choices without rigid rules. They don't trust that they can stay on track without extreme measures. And when you don't trust yourself, you default to external control. Meal plans, rigid diets, strict workout schedules, all things that work temporarily but fall apart the moment life throws a curveball. So if you want to break out of this cycle, the real work is building self-trust. And you do that through evidence-based confidence, by proving to yourself over and over that you can handle imperfection without throwing in the towel. This is why self-compassion is so critical. Not in a just be nice to yourself way, but in a biological regulation way. When you fall into a shame spiral, your nervous system goes into shutdown mode. This is why after a binge or an off day, it feels easier to disconnect, numb out, or say, I'll deal with this later. Your body is literally shifting into freeze mode, a survival response. So what do we do instead? We regulate first, respond second. Instead of trying to force yourself into a logical plan while your nervous system is in shutdown, you start with regulation. Deep breathing, movement, grounding techniques. Once your system is out of panic mode, then you can make a decision from wise mind, because a regulated nervous system makes completely different choices than a dysregulated one. And when you train yourself to regulate first, you interrupt the cycle before it starts. So how do we build a mindset of continuous growth? Let's bring it all together. So how do you take everything we've talked about today and actually apply it? Here's the formula for continuous growth. Shift from a perfection mindset to an adaptability mindset. Success isn't about doing it perfectly. It's about knowing how to adjust. Use self-correction instead of self-punishment. Stop hitting the reset button. Start pivoting in real time. Next, we want to build trust through small, consistent actions, because confidence isn't built in big moments. It's built in micro decisions. Next, regulate before you respond. If you're stuck in an emotional spiral, pause, ground, breathe, then choose your next step. And if you do this, if you shift from perfection to adaptability, if you build self-trust, if you learn to pivot instead of punish, you'll never need another fresh start again, because you'll finally trust that no matter what happens, you know how to keep moving forward. All right. So at this point, we've gone pretty deep, right? We've broken down why the fresh start illusion keeps you stuck. We've tackled all or nothing thinking and how to shift into a pivot mindset. We've talked about self-trust, nervous system regulation, and how to make self-correction your superpower. But now, let's talk about what this actually looks like in daily life. Because all of this sounds great in theory, but how do you make it automatic? How do you go from knowing this stuff intellectually to living it every single day? That's why we're covering this final segment, how to embed this mindset into your daily life so that it stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like second nature. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with consistency isn't because they don't want to follow through. It's because they're relying on willpower in the moment instead of pre-deciding the responses ahead of time. So let's say you're in the middle of a stressful workday, and normally your go-to habit is to grab something sugary for a quick dopamine hit. Or let's say you're exhausted at the end of the day, and the thought of exercising feels like a battle in your mind. If you wait until you're in the moment to make the decision, you're already at a disadvantage because you're making the choice from a depleted mental state, and that's where pre-decision comes in. Pre-decision is when you decide ahead of time how you're going to handle difficult moments. So that when they come up, you're not debating with yourself. Instead of should I work out or not, you've already decided when I feel resistance, I'll commit to just 5 minutes. Instead of should I eat the whole bag of chips, you've already decided if I want a snack, I'll plate it and eat it mindfully. Instead of I messed up, should I just start over, you've already decided no matter what, I always take the next best step. Pre-decision eliminates decision fatigue. It takes the mental battle out of the process. And the more decisions you automate, the more mental energy you feel free up for actual progress. So now that we've talked about pre-decision, let's take it a step further. Because breaking free from the fresh start mindset isn't just about making better decisions. It's about rewiring your default responses so that self-correction becomes second nature. And the way we do that? Well, we train for it. Just like you wouldn't expect to lift a heavy weight in the gym without building up to it, you can't expect your brain to suddenly switch from all or nothing to adaptability overnight. You have to practice the skill of pivoting, and here's how you do it. Step 1, the what's my next move exercise. Every time you catch yourself thinking, I already messed up, might as well keep going. I'll just start fresh next week. I don't have time to do it right, so I'll wait until later. Then you pause and ask yourself, what's the next best move I can make right now? Not the perfect move, not a full reset, just the next best step in this moment. And then you take it, even if it's small, even if it feels insignificant, because every time you do this, you're reinforcing that new identity, the one where you're not someone who starts over, but someone who keeps going. Now let's talk about another key piece of this puzzle, your environment. Because no matter how strong your mindset is, if your environment is constantly working against you, staying consistent will feel like an uphill battle. So think about it like this. If you're trying to eat healthier, but every time you walked into your kitchen, the first thing you saw was a box of donuts on the counter, or if you were trying to work out more, but your workout gear was buried under a pile of laundry, or trying to be more present in your life, but the first thing you do in the morning is check your phone, you're making things harder than they need to be. So instead of relying on sheer willpower, change your default settings. Want to eat better? Make the healthy choice the easiest one to grab. Want to move more? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Want to be more mindful? Put your phone in another room when you need to focus. Because success isn't just about willpower, it's about setting up an environment where the best choice is the easiest choice. And when you combine that with the mindset shifts we've talked about today, that's when consistency stops feeling like effort and starts feeling automatic. So let's zoom out for a second. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about food. It's not just about exercise. It's not just about habits. It's about how you see yourself. If you see yourself as someone who needs a fresh start every time life throws a curveball, you'll keep looking for resets. But if you see yourself as someone who adapts, pivots, and keeps moving forward, then setbacks stop being obstacles. They become part of the path. Because growth is not a straight line. It's messy. It's unpredictable. But if you trust yourself to navigate the messy middle, to self-correct, to take the next best step, to pivot instead of punish, then you never need to start over again. Because you'll always be in motion. So here's what I want you to do. Stop waiting for Monday. Stop waiting for a fresh start, a perfect moment, a full reset. Pick one thing you can do today, right now, to move forward. Because the secret to lasting change, it's not in the grand restarts. It's in the small daily decisions. And if you can master that, if you can learn to adjust, pivot, and trust yourself, you'll never feel stuck again. The awakening isn't a single moment. It's a lifelong practice. Awaken yourself, awaken your genius, awaken your power. Walk your path with intention, and I'll meet you along the way.